Clutch is a device which is used in the transmission system of automobile to engage and disengage the engine to the transmission or gearbox. It is located between the transmission and the engine. When the clutch is engaged, the power flows from the engine to the rear wheels in a rear-wheel drive transmission and the vehicle moves. When the clutch is disengaged, the power is not transmitted from the engine to the rear wheels and vehicle stops even if engine is running. It works on the principle of friction. When two friction surfaces are brought in contact with each other and they are united due to the friction between them, if one is revolved, the other will also revolve. The friction depends upon the surface area contact. The friction surfaces are so designed that the driven member initially slips on driving member when initially pressure is applied. As pressure increases, the driven member is brought gradually to speed the driving member. Operation of clutch. When the clutch pedal is pressed through pedal movement, the clutch release bearing presses on the clutch release lever plate which, being connected to clutch release levers, forces these levers forward. This causes the pressure plate to compress pressure springs, thus allowing it to move away from the clutch-driven plate. This action releases the pressure on the driven plate and flywheel. The flywheel is now free to turn independently, without turning the transmission. When the clutch pedal is released, reverse action takes place, that is, the driven plate is again forced against the flywheel by the pressure plate because of the force exerted by pressure springs. The pressure plate will keep on pressing the facings of driven plate until friction created becomes equal to the resistance of the vehicle. Any further increase in pressure will cause the clutch plate and the transmission shaft to turn along with flywheel, thus achieving vehicle movement. The driving member consists of a flywheel mounted on the engine crankshaft. The flywheel is bolted to cover which carries a pressure plate or driving disc, pressure springs and releasing levers. Thus the entire assembly of flywheel and cover rotates all the times. The clutch housing and the cover provided with openings dissipate the heat generated by friction during the clutch operation. The driving member consists of a disc or plate called clutch plate. It is free to slide lengthwise on the splines of the clutch shaft. It carries friction materials on both of its surfaces. When it is gripped between the flywheel and the pressure plate, it rotates the clutch shaft through splines. The operating members consists of a foot pedal, linkage, release or throw-out bearing, release levers and springs necessary to ensure the proper operation of the clutch. Now the driving member in an automobile is flywheel mounted on crankshaft, the driven member is the pressure plate mounted on transmission or gearbox input shaft. Friction surfaces or clutch plates is placed between two members. Properties of good clutching. Good wearing properties: high resistance to heat, high coefficient of friction, good binders in it.